Hi everyone, it's Muneeza. I'm so glad and excited to connect with you all for my first video of 2017. And part of the reason I've been a little quiet in the beginning of the year, I'll tell you why, because this video is all about that. And what I'm doing for myself to help myself and what I felt called to share with you to help yourselves. And the topic that we're going to be covering today is a really relevant one, given all of what is happening in the world today with the intensity of global events and how we feel they're affecting us and the stress that people have taken on ever since the election happened. I've had a lot of people really feeling unwell because of the stress that has brought. And while it's very hard for us to control what's happening in the world around us, there's a lot that we can do to help ourselves. And even though we may be contributing to the world around us to help change things and shift things, those changes are not immediate. And they may never happen. But what we can affect immediately is what we can do for ourselves. And I'm not just talking about changing thoughts, because, let's face it, thoughts are also not easy to shift. We can try, and then sometimes we get stuck in a thought, and it can be very hard to shift out of that thought. So what I'm suggesting today are really practical things that can help shift your energy instantaneously. And so the video today is about finding your happy place and how to do that with things that you already know make you happy. So two things can contribute to us finding our happy place. The first one is actually doing and engaging in activities that bring us immense amounts of joy. And the second is identifying those places where we are in obligation. An obligation tends to take away from our happy place. It's not the happiest place to be, because often the reason it's an obligation is because we really don't want to do it. And it's an obligation. Are we doing it because we have to, or because we think somebody else will get upset if we don't show up? So it's finding those places of obligation and, as much as possible, unwinding as many. Even if you unwound one, what you would do would be to reclaim yourself. So this is about self-reclamation. Why do we want to self-reclaim? What's the point? Well, the point is so that we can have ourselves feel happier, calmer, and healthier. Because God knows the world needs more people who feel happy, calm, and healthy. And if we have more of us in the world collectively will shift. And to me, that's a much faster way to affect change than any other way, is to change ourselves. The change within is the change without. Okay, so where I want to go is also identifying what is it? Why is it that we want to change ourselves? What are we doing this for? Yeah, we do it for ourselves. Self-help, self-love, self-care. Really important things. A lot of buzzwords these days around that. But also, we do it because we want to show up in the best possible way for our loved ones, right? The whole point of living our lives is to not just be solo. I mean, we are human animals and we live in community. So our communities are our family members, our friends, our coworkers, our colleagues. And then we have people who are really like in our inner circle. If you're a mom, your kids are in your inner circle. If you're married or you have a significant other, that significant other tends to be in your inner circle. They're the people who are really important for you. They really show up for you. These are the people you want to show up for. But what happens is then when we are not in our happy place or not making that happen on purpose or too much an obligation, we don't show up for these people, our inner circle, presenting the best of ourselves. We show up presenting less than our best, and sometimes our worst. Does that true for you? It was true for me. And so why I'm bringing this up is because so often we're just by default showing up in the worst possible way for our people who matter the most. Shouldn't we show up in the best possible way for those people? It makes sense, right? But we're not doing it. So let's think about that and talk about what we can do to change. So the first thing I recommend is making sure that you can identify the places in your life that you're in obligation. Like one of the things for me, I'll give you an example, was always going into the city. I live near New York City and I would travel into the city and I'd come back from the city and I'd feel like depleted. I would feel overwhelmed. I would be drained, and it would take a couple of days, maybe 2, 3, 4 days for me to completely recover. And I was not showing up in the best possible way for my family and my inner circle by doing that because I was wiped out afterwards. But I did it for a long time without realizing what effect it was having on me. And then when I came into awareness with it, I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Because it's really not serving. And it was more out of an obligation that I was going rather than out of, feeling like I really was serving me and was making me feel better and was helping me. So I decided that my trips to the city would be less and fewer and far between so that I wouldn't have that depletion that I was experiencing. And when I cut that out, guess what? I was able to reclaim more of my energy to give to my family and my inner circle. And I want you to find examples of that in your own life. Now, I get it, right? We all do some things out of obligation, but you really shouldn't be living your life out of obligation because that's not your life. That's a life lived on someone else's terms, not your terms. So look for those places. And even if you can make one change, it will shift your energy level so much. So I encourage you to do that. The second thing, and this is the way more fun one, is to find places that bring you joy. Find things and activities that bring you joy and do them. So you might be sitting there going, well, I don't know what brings me joy. Well, think about when you were a kid. What were the things you liked to do? Did you like to color? Did you like to run outside? Did you like to play on the swings? Did you jump on a trampoline? Did you like to go by the river? Did you like to play dress up? Were you always role modeling? Were you in a play? What music? What brought you joy? Because children have unabashed joy. That's why we like to hang out with kids sometimes. We're like, oh, this is like, look at them. They're so funny. They're so cute. Because they're in their element. And they know how to be in joy. They know how to be themselves for the most part. So think about yourself as a kid if you cannot think of an activity that brings you joy. And this doesn't involve, changing thoughts or like doing other inner work. It's just about finding an activity that brings you joy. And it can be simple. So for me, I love dancing. I love dancing and I love music. Music is my thing. I don't know if you know this about me. I was a trained musician from the age of 5 till 25. I had 20 years of training in music. I played piano. And then on my own, did a lot of singing. And, while I love classical music, rock and roll is my thing. So you may not know this about me or see me in that light, but it is such a great place of joy. I love singing. I love to sing my heart out. And I was realizing that in the last few years, I wasn't doing it as much. I wasn't doing it on purpose. And so I decided in 2017, I'm going to do that on purpose because of the amount of joy that singing brings me. And dancing brings me too. So I've committed to that in 2017. And what that's doing for me is changing my circle. So the only thing I've done really is to change what I'm doing to make myself happy. And what it's doing is it's having this really positive effect on my circle because I'm showing up in a much more present, not checked out, right? I'm present. I'm not tired. I'm happier. I'm more joyful. And that energy passes on to the children and to my husband and to my friends. who are in my inner circle. So it's been really amazing to watch that happen. And so what we did after that was to talk about with my husband, what are the things that bring us joy? So things we can do together. And then also with my children and my family, did a family conference to say, what can we do together that really brings us joy? So, the kids really were into board games, and I love board games too. So I'm like, okay, when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of board games and I forgot that. So when my kids brought it up, they're like, Mom, we want to play more board games. I'm like, yes, I want to play more board games too. So let's do that. So, if you're thinking of something that you want to do, but you're not able to do because you're dealing with your health and your health does not allow you to do it, say it's movement or dancing. You could put on a piece of your favorite music that you like to dance to and listen to it. Imagine yourself dancing, or move your upper body if you can, or find a way to engage and relate with that music that brings back some of that joy. And you can imagine yourself doing it in the past. You can imagine yourself doing it in the future. Like Anthony William always says, right? Medical medium. He talks about, like, sometimes being in the now is not as helpful. And sometimes we need to be in the past or the future to help shift our energy and to help us feel better and to give us hope. So do it for that. Or if there's some, really dig deep to find the things that you love doing. I think we don't often give this kind of exercise enough credence or enough seriousness, even though it's not a serious subject, but really look into it and go and find the places, find the activities, go think about what it is that brings you joy. Do hugs bring you joy? Well, then give more hugs. It could be something as simple as that you used to do before, but you forgot. And I'm sure every single one of you has things that you used to do that brought you joy that you're not doing right now. I want you to go think about it and find it. And when you do, so if you're already doing something that brings you joy, comment below. And if you haven't found something yet, write what your potential options are and write them below. And we'll come up and give you love and some support around it. And you know what? When you read other people's ideas, you might say, hey, I really want to do that. I never even thought of that. So engage in this exercise. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking for ideas. I think that you guys might come up with things that I could want to bring in that are more fun. And so I am really encouraging all of you, find the places where you're in obligation that you can get out of as much as possible, and then look for the places that bring you joy. Because the joy is really easy to bring in. It doesn't require a lot of necessarily time, money, or energy. Sometimes it's just a very simple thing of thinking about. So what got me going? I'll give you a little inside look. I was listening to a piece of music, and it was a rock and roll song from the 50s. And I'm listening to it, I'm like, my body's moving. I'm driving the car and I'm like moving and I'm like, oh my God, I really want to dance to this thing. And in my head, I'm picturing the dance that I would be doing. And I was like, why am I actually not moving? Because I'm sitting in the car, but why don't I go home and actually do this? So it was a big aha moment for me. And, go and look for those kinds of things. Because I promise you, there's a wealth, there's gold if you go find this. And I hope that this has been helpful and, kicked off in your mind some cool ideas or some inspiration for finding the places that bring you joy. And we're going to spread this love, because that's why I want you to comment below, so that in the community, we can expand our joy and our happy places and really come into them. Because we have enough going on in life, right? So there's enough going on that is not joyful, not happy. The world isn't necessarily happy right now, but we can find it for ourselves. And that's what brought me so much joy, actually, to make this video for you and to spread this message. Peace and blessings. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.